And welcome to our latest edition of Friday Conversation. We're joined now by the EIU men's and women's soccer staffs. If you're looking at the Zoom screen here on the top with me, and you guys may see this entirely different. So they only see my screen, so I always try to tell people who's on the screen with us. So on the top with myself is Jake Plant, our head women's soccer coach. On the bottom is his assistant, Dirk Bennett, and then our new men's soccer coach, and we talked about this before I got on the air, Ronnie Bowimbue. I'm hopefully in the ballpark there. He told me to just sing the Lion King song over and over, and eventually the repetition will just work. And so Coach Ronnie, we're going to go Coach Ronnie most of the time here, so I don't tongue-tie myself most of the time, so I hope that's good.
That works with me.
You're new with the guys, and so you only had a couple weeks with them before before we went into what this current quarantine stay-at-home order is right now. Is how many of the guys, I guess, first question, have learned how to say your name properly, and as you guys are kind of learning how to do this virtually?
No, I haven't tested them on that yet. But no, I think they're doing all right. I think super excited to be here, super excited to be leading the program here and into a new season. Obviously, an unfortunate situation that we found ourselves in, but we're all adapting, and obviously super proud of the guys and how they've been adapting thus far. So.
Now, I know we did a couple conversations via email and some questions on how things were going for both programs, and I think you guys are both in a similar situation here. I know, Jake, with the women's team, you guys were able to get a couple matches in. I think the guys got one, maybe two in. I guess assess where your team was for the women and then for the men going into spring break, and then maybe then how can we use that when you are able to get back together once again? And I'll start with Jake if you want.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when you have a long layoff, seeing as the last game that we played was early November, and then you get the guys together to play in February, you're hoping for the best, and you're kind of trying to figure out. You can do all the training you want, you can get them as fit as you want, technical as you want, try and do as much video as you can. But you learn a lot in that first game. So we played IUPUI in that first game over in Indianapolis, and we learned a lot about the girls in terms of just their toughness and resiliency and competitiveness had not changed from November, which was awesome to see. So obviously you're always going to be not as you're not going to have all the answers by your first game back in spring, but there was a lot of really good foundations for us to carry on and do a lot of good work with. So I know, not to speak for Dirk, but Dirk and I were super happy with where the girls were, and we'll continue to grow during up towards spring break when we obviously left it. So really good foundation, what we're doing. And I think that we were going to have one of the better springs that we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. It's unfortunate what happened.
And then Coach Ronnie, you just had a couple of games with your guys. I guess kind of how are you guys? How did it react for you? What did you kind of see for your first time really seeing the team?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, it was a little interesting situation, obviously, because the last couple of years where I was in my previous institution, we did play the group every year. So, but I think for me coming into this spring, we just try to keep it very simple. It was all about building a relationships with me and the guys on an individual basis and both as a team as a whole. And so what I wanted to see out of them in the first couple of weeks that we're fortunate enough to train in is just see how coachable each and every one of them are, how acceptable they are, and kind of taking on or, accepting a new coaching staff essentially, into the program. And super proud of them. They all were able to welcome me with open arms. Couldn't ask for a group such as this, at a time like this, challenge them in many different ways. And so we were fortunate enough to get in 2 games this spring, all for me, which were pure evaluations. And I kind of shared it with them all individually. Listen, I have no expectations going into both of these games, right? The only expectation I have is that I have some feedback and I have some tools to be able to evaluate each and every single one of you on an individual basis and then as a group, so I can make some mental notes of what we may need moving forward and what we can continue to work on moving forward. Our first game at NIU was good. We ended up losing 1-0, but I think the IUPUI game, which was a second game a week later, we bounced back and got a W and a result out of that. I think for me, on the field, super happy with the guys' willingness to work hard, right? Under a new coach and a new direction, just their willingness and their openness to be coachable was something very impressive. And that obviously I want to see continue moving forward when we get back here.
Dirk, you're interesting situation here for you is that you served as kind of an assistant coach, a volunteer assistant for the men for a long time. So you know a lot of those players. And then you came on at full time as the women's assistant last year. Where have you kind of been able to help as a resource here, not only in your current role as the women's coach, but also maybe helping Ronnie get to know some of these guys in that transition period?
Yeah, well, I mean, I gave Ronnie a couch to sleep on for a couple of weeks, so that can't be understated. No, it's been good.
Appreciate it.
He was a good roommate. No, it's been good. That my focus is obviously transitioned more towards the women this past academic year, which makes sense. But with all the boys that Ronnie has now to coach, the good thing is talking about the team culture. Those guys picked it up and are ready to go. So having myself and Coach Plan around to help those guys transition into maybe a new system and just staying comfortable with new staff. It's been cool being a part of that as well. But just, like I said, Ronnie's one of the boys already. He's really, we brought him aboard. He's doing the same things that have made EIU soccer, sustainable for a long time. So it's been pretty easy on that front. But with the women, the new challenge there is just, diving full time into a new team. But again, just a great group of girls to coach. And like Jake and Ronnie kind of echoed earlier, it's just been a bummer not to have that spring period to develop and truly, get to those, whether it's tactical or in terms of relationship building, really, growing those pieces. It's a drawback, but we're making the best of it.
Now, one of the other things that's interesting for you, your programs is you both have a good number of internationals on your team. And I know as people don't understand maybe what's going to happen here in the U.S., globally, this is an issue as well for travel, for health, things like that. What has been your interaction with your international players? Are some of them? I know for a fact that some of the young ladies are still in town. I saw them the other day, walking around town. Where is their situation now? And then there's got to be some worry for them, the ones that are here, is that if I go home, I may not be able to come back to the U.S.
Yeah, it's definitely a conundrum for them because there's a lot of the girls out here. I do have 3 of them abroad right now. So I have 1 in Spain, 1 in Sweden, 1 in Canada. And then there's 4 or 5 of the girls still in town now. So their conundrum is obviously what you just spelled out there. Do I go home and risk not being able to come back, or do I stay and then miss being home with the family? So, and it's a tough one because if you take soccer out of it, you take university classes out of it, you say, hey, go home and be with your families. The other side that they're considering is that they're, maybe Ronnie's a little different, but, there's a few of my girls who are seniors and they're very concerned that they might miss their senior year. So I think that I know that Ronnie and Dirk will support whatever those girls want to do, because I think this is bigger than soccer. Nearly called it football then. This is bigger than soccer. And a lot of these girls, especially, I know Ronnie's had players who've had family members get sick and worse. And I know that girls on our team have family members who are sick and worse. And the most thing is that they go to the place that they feel most comfortable, and we'll back them up. I think that's the big thing that they need to know, that we'll back them up either way.
Yeah. No, I think to echo that is exactly just right. I think as this was going on and, everybody has had to make decisions and stuff, obviously we've had conversations with our supervisors, with the universities, or what that would look like for the guys. But I think, like Jay said, at the end of the day, for me in particular, in my conversation with the guys is, listen, whatever your family decides, is best for you. Listen, make it happen, and we'll figure out things on our end and how we're going to move forward in that regards. I think at the end of the day, right now, we're all waiting. We're at the mercy of the health experts right now, right? As to when we can try to get back to a normal, or what is the new normal now, what that would be. But I think there's no better place for the guys to they decide to be, as close to their families as possible. And like Dirk said, like Jake said, I'm going to support my guys' decisions throughout this process. And so, yeah, I got 2 guys in Spain that are close to home. I got 2 guys in Brazil that are all at home, indeed. And again, for me, just checking in with them on a weekly basis to make sure everything's going okay. Unfortunately for us, we got hit hard with this because one of our guys, his granddad passed away about 2 weeks ago from the effects of the COVID-19 and coronavirus. And so, obviously families mourning, we're all mourning with them, but it's real, and it has tremendous impact, some of which we don't even know yet. But I think safe to say my guys are handling it pretty well, and super proud of them again as they're adapting through all of this.
Now, we understand that, as Jake mentioned there, football, as it's called around the rest of the world, soccer here in the U.S., locally or in the U.S., people are looking at when can professional sports return. I see things globally that I think, football, soccer is a huge part of, morale, but also the economy in a lot of other countries. They're talking about trying to bring it back in certain parts of Europe. Being a lot more familiar with the game than I am from that standpoint, how does that look for if you were an athlete? You're used to playing, in front of 70,000 people at I don't know if they play soccer in Wembley Stadium, but I'll throw that one out there because that's one of the world famous ones that people know. To now it's just 22 of us are on the pitch playing soccer with maybe 20 guys on the sideline. How does that change the game?
I think a lot of early on, a lot of like high valued coaches said that they have no interest in playing if the crowd isn't there, because of the effect that it's about, and the fact that the purists of the game will tell you that it's not about the money and all that kind of stuff. It's about giving something back to the people and the culture. But I think the reality is that if they're going to finish their seasons and actually have a conclusion, that's the reality. They're going to have to do that. But you'll see, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that France just declared PSG the winners already with won. I know Holland also cancelled their season with no winner. And like all these European leagues are all over the place with what they're going to do. So it's kind of all over the place. It's up in the air between, do you want to play with crowds, without crowds, just finish the season, declare somebody a winner? I don't think anybody really knows over there in Europe what's going on.
It's a tough one because a lot of those leagues will, if you finish the winner, then you get more money than if you're a loser. In fact, the bottom 3, a lot of those leagues will go down to the next division below, where there's a lot less, money in terms of TV rights and all that stuff on the line. So there's a lot of financial considerations that they're trying to weigh, as well as the human element and the spirit of the game. So it's every country is kind of approaching it differently. And, for those that are trying to make it happen, like I think Germany is looking at maybe restarting training or games here mid-May, and that, whether that's the right or wrong decision, who knows, but I think they're going to be watched very closely by a lot of leagues and organizations stateside.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to that, I think the financial impact of it, of the decision that these leagues make, is just that. Because I know in Scotland, I read a little blurb in Scotland. I think the bottom teams threw up a fit when the National League wanted to finish and end the season and declare the winners as such, based on where they're finished before this went down. And so they're going through a whole ridiculous, lawsuit / complaints for some of the teams that are more on the bottom end of the table because of the financial impacts that being promoted and relegated kind of has. But at the end of the day, hopefully, for all of these leagues in these countries, I think the number one priority should be the health and safety of everybody as we return to what the new normal is going to be. I think everybody's looking and trying to find a solution. There's not a set solution, right? How we can go about this, but I think everybody's kind of trying to figure out their own way to kind of make that work.
All right. In an ideal world here, and it's not an ideal world by any means, as you guys all touched on there, football around the world comes back, every league is able to play without fans, with fans, but it's on TV. But here in the U.S., you don't get to. What's your league that you want to go to watch on TV if you have access to anything through all the cable? One, which league do you prefer? And then what's your team? And your team may not be the same as the league that you prefer. Like you may be, and I'll throw out the ones I know, the Bundesliga may be the league that you like, but your team may be like Arsenal or Man U. You guys can start in any order you want there. Jake may go where he is being from England already, but that he may surprise us.
Yeah.
Big swig of tea there, so I didn't have to answer because my team. So I'll answer. Obviously, I like the English leagues, fun one, but my team plays in the division below the Premier League in the something called the Championship. So basically, that means that we're not very good. But I tell you what, it has some romance to it. The promotion and relegation, for me, there's nothing more fun than watching your team struggle. I don't know if that's the sick side of me, but I think I like the fact that Birmingham City are not they're not Liverpool, they're not Man United. We don't get the glory, but we love them regardless. So I'd probably say any of the English leagues are good for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Arsenal. Arsenal's my team since a very young age. Been with them through all the ups and downs. I don't think I've seen. I haven't seen any downs. Let me say that. I haven't seen any downs. I think our worst downs have been when we don't make the top four, right? So those are our down moments. Okay, not as bad as Birmingham City getting relegated, but our worst downs is when we don't make the top four. So high expectations for Arsenal there. But I think the English league is enjoyable to watch. Again, just a little mix of everything, right? Physicality, technical prowess, and all those pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, Ronnie has a lot of fun in the fall, and then the spring is always a tough time for Arsenal fans. So
yeah.
Feel for him there. To take a little different route, I've been a Barcelona fan, so I'd probably say the Spanish leagues. Those are fun to watch, and I'm lucky because they do really well. So it's always a good year.
Now, Ronnie kind of led into this, and it wasn't kind of a question on my list, but it's an interesting thought for me in the way he described the English league. The leagues that then you guys follow, have you found that then maybe influences the style of play from the way that you want to coach? There's no doubt that, and you see it on the World Cup stage probably more so than on the individual leagues, that there's a different style of play and with the South American teams as opposed to the English team and the Italian team. Have you guys found that the leagues that you tend to like are the style you tend to coach?
That's a tough one, isn't it? I think that because at the same time, you can probably try and play like Barcelona as much as you want. It might not be that effective at the Division 1 level for men's or the women's game. So I think that you really have to kind of meet the Division 1 level and where it's at, as much as you might love a Barcelona or an Arsenal or a Birmingham City. But I think that the styles of play is an interesting one because you can go through a whole season and play against 3 or 4 different styles, and you could argue that it's from a league that you enjoy the most. I know that Dirk and I, the way that we try and implement things for the girls is probably definitely more of a Spanish style than it would be an English championship style, that's for sure. So I think that that's probably just because more of what we think is effective at our level. But it's also super enjoyable for the players and it's very enjoyable to coach, that's for sure.
Definitely. I think that there's a little bit of influence and impact and obviously the overall coaching philosophy, right? But I know for me growing up, right, it was the Arsenal way of playing. And in particular, the years of the Invisibles, you guys can look that up. Best team in the world, I would say. Went undefeated throughout the whole season, didn't lose a game. But just that style and the mix of athleticism, speed, pace, power, but technically sound all over the field. But again, it's at the Division 1 level. Can you try to emulate that, right? Or are you going to come close to that? Probably not, right? So a lot of it is based on the quality of guys that we do have and their specific attributes and what they currently have. And so I know for me, do I want to play like Arsenal? Oh, that's a dream, obviously, right? but it's about how can I maximize my guys' abilities right now, right? To put the best product on the field we can, to make sure we get the best results we can day in and day out here.
Yeah, Rich, to make it a little comparison, if you're trying to coach a basketball team and you're watching The Last Dance right now, you might want to model the team after the Bulls, but you have to have Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen to make it work. So you work with what you have and you build towards what you want.
So you guys are saying you don't have a Ronaldo on your team, or for the older crowd, a Maradona, or
I wish.
We've been stuck in the house now, and luckily you've been able to get out and get some fresh air on nice days for about, I want to say, counting on 5 weeks. We start to lose track of even what day of the week it is, let alone what week. What are you kind of most looking forward to be able to do when you can kind of get back outside and some of these shelter-in-place orders are lifted?
Coach.
That's it. Go around, kick a ball. Get back into our Sunday league with Derek and Jake here.
Yeah, playing and coaching and just being around the game has been the toughest thing for us. It's like we spend all summer not being able to do that, through May, June, July, and then we love it when August comes around, and we've basically had to live that 2 months premature. So I'd say that we're almost about to have a 5-month summer away from the game. So yeah, we'll all be itching by the time it hits August, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Recruiting too, and golf. Can't forget golf. But honestly, I miss being out on the road and going to watch girls play and kind of speaking to them and their parents, and it's kind of a fun part of the job that's not been taken away. So can't replace that.
So you bring up recruiting there, and how has that gone for you guys? I mean, have the potential recruits been receptive? I know the way that the scholarships are set up at the way they're divided at soccer compared to other sports is you get X amount of scholarships and you can divide that amongst, a number of players on your team. One, you're probably trying to do some math as to how can I spread that out the farthest and get the best quality. But, when you're looking at new players, how receptive are they right now to the way they're being recruited, not only by Eastern, but other schools in general, probably?
I mean, it's been very interesting. Obviously I think for me personally, and what I've done is instead of just talking on the phone, right, I try to put my face in front of them and in front of their families. I think where you have that face-to-face interaction, right, outside of the computer, you kind of still have that. I think you can still see the mannerism, you can see the face expression and all those pieces. So I think that for me has been valuable in just making that connection, right, with these new prospects since, they can't come on campus. We can't go out and see them play. I know Jake and Dirk can attest to this. So pure, my skills in evaluating video, right, and highlight tapes is definitely going up. It's definitely going up. I know they have a lot more experience than me in doing that, but I am. It's something that I obviously had to buckle down. It's the first question we ask the recruits and prospects now that email us, right? It's hey, in the past it's send me your schedule, I can go and watch you play. Now it's send me a highlight video, or else we're not moving forward with this process because I need something to go on. Yeah, we can have the greatest conversations, but I need to be able to see something and kind of evaluate from that piece as well. So quite a bit has changed, but I think it's been positive and well received, at least on my end. Got a couple of recruits here the last couple of weeks that I think are going to help us. Now, obviously, we're going to find out should we come back here in August and have a preseason and a decent season.
Yeah, I'd say that likewise with Ronnie, when you want to speak to your recruits, getting them on face-to-face is that face-to-face contact so you can see kind of the mannerisms and stuff. Like it makes, number one, it puts the conversation at ease a little bit. I think that if you're calling someone for the first time, I'm not going to say it's awkward, but it's definitely like you get a little bit more we're used to it, but you get more feedback from the kid, more feedback from the family when they feel like they can see you and stuff. So that's been good. It's probably something that we'll try and implement going forward, to be honest. But I think that face-to-face contact, the ability to go and see them play has been tough because, as Ronnie said, we've had to adjust here at Eastern to make sure that we watch a lot of video and get your eye in. But ultimately, really know the kid until you see him play. So in terms of our 21 class that, Dirk and I are going after, I would say that's only one player so far in our list that has decided to make a quick decision and say, okay, I'm going to commit somewhere else. And it's unfortunate that they couldn't come to our campus. Everybody else in our recruiting pool has said, you know what, I'm now delaying my decision till the fall, which will still give us a chance to go and watch them play, which is kind of nice. So I think that in terms of, has there been are we missing out on kids because of the whole coronavirus? Doesn't seem that way. It seems that actually the kids are starting to delay their decisions, and it means we can get to see them play. And it's kind of, hopefully it'll end up being like what we normally would do. But in the meantime, we can chat with them and make sure everything's going well, and start to just build a relationship with a kid, which is a good thing.
And then the last couple of questions here, just a few more minutes. We kind of just always try to do some things a little bit more lighthearted. You're stuck in front of the computer with recruiting, with watching videotape and all the other parts of work that don't allow you to get outside and kick the soccer ball around with your team. What is the number one thing you're having to make sure that you stay away from in terms of your pantry or your fridge? It's kind of your guilty pleasure snack that you're having to make sure you either don't replenish that or convince yourself that you don't really need it.
For me, I won't lie. The first 2 weeks I had, those big family-sized bags of M&Ms. I had two. I had two for 2 weeks straight, and then I've been good the last week. I didn't buy a bag. So that's been my guilty pleasure. And the crazy thing is, I've been eating all the other colors except red. Red's my favorite color, but blue now. I've been eating all the other colors except the red, and I'll eat those last. But haven't touched an M&M for a little bit over a week.
I say that my mother-in-law, she likes to send me. She lives next to a British food depot down in Miami, so she always puts stuff in boxes and sends care packages up. So I'm deep into the chocolate biscuits that she sent me that I would get back home in England. So the only way that I'm not going to stop eating them is when I run out, and then I'm almost at running out stage. So my quarantine diet is probably going to start in the next 2 days, I guess.
I've always been a cookie monster, so that's my vice for sure. And I just finally got rid of them all, and then my mom sent me some brownies, so that's not really a great substitute either. But we'll see how it goes. I try to keep my pantry stocked with fruit as much as I can, get that sweet tooth going.
Now you're on the computer all day because your office has changed. I know how you guys' offices are normally set up. You're in there for a little bit, but you're also working on some strategy, some individual skill development, those types of things. That's not available now. You can only do so much in front of the screen that's work related. Have you guys found yourselves, are you getting on an Amazon and have you made a guilty purchase? Have you planned out this dream trip you're going to have when the coronavirus ends for us? We'll make Dirk start first on this one.
Go ahead, Dirk.
Oh man. Spending a lot of time at home, you're limited to what you can do. I think Netflix has been a temptation that's always there. And I feel bad because I think when Ronnie first moved here, he didn't watch any TV, and I got him hooked now. So we'll see if that's what he says too. But guilty pleasure has been kind of watching a lot of movies and series. But no, I haven't been spending too much money. If anything, I've been buying books, which is, I think, a healthy pastime. So working my way through a stack of books is my next goal.
Yeah, I'll back that up. I'd say that I've tried to be good by, if I'm going to do something that's maybe away from the computer, it's reading, or I can't read very well when it comes to books, but I bought an audiobook. Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. Everybody should listen to that. It's pretty damn good. So at least that way I can, learn something, and then actually something that I can pass on to the team. There's a lot of carryover in terms of what you can do to the team model and culture and things like that. So that's probably the only guilty pleasure that's can help the team, I guess. Yeah, that's a good one.
Nah, it's first of all, soccer coaches, we can work anywhere, right? I think I used to joke with my old bosses, like, listen, we don't even need an office to work, right? Give me a computer, got my cell phone. That's what we use most of the time anyway to get a lot of stuff we need to get done. But when I try to close the computer down, stay away from, I guess, the screen, I would say, got into painting a couple of weeks ago. So started doing some very amateur painting that I might share with Jake and Dirk, just kind of so you guys can see my skills on that. But no, I mean, other than that, try to still obviously continue to be productive. There's a lot of resources out there with, our coaches organization putting a couple of, symposiums and stuff online. There's some other coaching organization getting a couple coaches together and some speakers in to talk. So just plug my earphones in, put it on my phone, walk around the house doing something else just to keep busy and keep learning, and hopefully continue to invest in some stuff that'll help our guys here when we get back to the swing of things.
And our last question is one that I started out with when we did the very first one of these with the track and field staff. And I kind of asked them at the time, I said, what's kind of the song that goes through your head, or your theme song? And I don't know, the theme song is the right word for during this coronavirus. And I felt bad for Coach Nikki that she lives by herself. And she said that on her Amazon Music, Spotify, the "I'm So Lonely I Could Cry" kept coming on, and so it made her feel even more isolated. But I don't know that that's the one that comes to mind, but is there a song that, or an artist that has kind of come to mind during your time being, self-isolated in your house?
I listen to a lot of different music, so it's hard to pin it down, but one of my favorite artists that I've been revisiting lately is Third Eye Blind, and one of their songs is "Graduate." I was just singing that the other day, so kind of poignant right now considering the time of the year it is and all the students that wish they could be walking across that stage. So "Graduate" by Third Eye Blind.
I have nothing. All right? I have not associated a song or anything with the current situation, but I do tend to hum a couple of beats, and so one of the tunes I've been humming on a more regular basis nowadays. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, finish it.
You lost
Elmo's World. Come on, man. Jake, you don't know that one. Dirk should know that one. That's why I was laughing.
He hums and paints at home. I feel really bad for this guy.
Yeah, painting at Elmo. Haven't seen an episode in forever, right? But somehow the song's always been stuck in my head. So when there's nothing going on, I tend to hum that too.
Interesting.
I just started watching one of my favorite shows again, The Sopranos. I realized The Sopranos is back up on Hulu, so the Sopranos theme tune has been sort of been singing me to sleep the last few days. So I guess I don't know if that's I don't know. It's kind of a poor song to be falling asleep. But that's probably the only one I can think of right now.
No, that's good. Everybody's a little different in this situation, and kind of what resonates with you when you're in this time of self-reflection and shelter in place. And hopefully one of these days everybody will be able to get back out there. You guys will be able to coach your men and women on the pitch again, and hopefully we'll be able to get back in the office and get back to some sort of normal. I do appreciate your time here this afternoon. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.